One of the greatest joys in life is that moment you learn you're going to be bringing a child into this world. You wonder what color you're going to paint the nursery or which parent they will look like the most. And then you start worrying about what kind of world you're bringing a child into. And will my child become a victim of bullying in school? But while we are spending so much time wondering what our children are exposed to and who could cause them harm outside of the home, we fail to realize that some of the most damaging blows happen right there within the family, especially in a home where the child is used as a pawn in a marriage that is otherwise falling apart. Typically, in those situations, it's really the child that suffers. When Amy Fry Pitzen picked her son up from school on the morning of May 11th, 2011, she had her day with Timothy all planned out. In fact, she had been planning this day out for months. Timothy, on the other hand, as well as his father James, had no idea what was about to happen in the days to follow. And what would happen would not be intended to destroy Timothy. It was meant to destroy James. This is the disappearance of Timothy Pitzen, and this is Gone in a Blink. Hey, true crime fans. I'm your host, Heather.
And I'm Danielle.
And today we are going to discuss the disappearance of missing 6-year-old Timothy Pitzen. Now, this is a case that has baffled investigators and armchair detectives for over a decade now, and the details of the case will definitely make you question a lot. And most importantly, where is Timothy Pitzen? So if you're ready, let's jump right into it.
Let's do it.
6-year-old Timothy James Pitzen was born in Aurora, Illinois to James Pitzen and Amy Fry Pitzen. He was a kindergartner at Greenman Elementary in Aurora and was described as a happy and fun-loving little boy. Now, James and Amy, they had been having problems in their marriage, and Amy had been battling bouts of depression. On the morning of May 11th, 2011, Amy picked Timothy up from his kindergarten class at Greenman Elementary, and she told the school that there was a family emergency. She had not told anyone else about her plans to pick up Timothy, including James. So after picking Timothy up from school, she drove to an auto repair shop and dropped off her blue 2000 Ford Expedition SUV around 10 a.m. And Amy and Timothy were then dropped off at the Brookside Zoo by one of the repair shop employees. Then around 3 p.m., she came to pick up her vehicle and drove with Timothy to a hotel and water park called Key Lime Cove Resort in Gurnee, Illinois, where they spent the night. Meanwhile, when she's going here and there with Timothy and doing what appears to be all these fun things, the zoo, the water park, James had gone to pick up Timothy from school, not knowing that his wife had pulled him out of school earlier that morning. So James tried numerous times to call Amy, but could not get her to answer the phone. The next day, May 12th, Amy and Timothy headed to the Wisconsin Dells and checked into the Kalahari Resort. Along the way, they stopped to buy some clothes.
So they're not even in Illinois anymore. They've moved on to Wisconsin.
Yeah, they've moved on. So she's planned this entire, just one fun event for Timothy after the next. They're going to the zoo. They're going to this water park. They're going to the Kalahari Resort that's in the Wisconsin Dells. I mean, they're just doing one thing after the next. But she never tells Timothy's father, James. So along the way, they stopped to buy clothes and a toy car and a small craft kit at a convenience store, some little this and that type things. And then they also got gas and bought drinks off of Interstate 94. So after more failed attempts at contacting his wife, James filed a missing persons report eventually with the Aurora police, who immediately entered Timothy's name in a database for missing children. They did not issue an Amber Alert because at that point they didn't believe that Timothy was in any danger. And they figured, James figures, okay, he's with his mom. Little weird that he wasn't notified about this and that she's not answering any of the phone calls. But then the very next day, on May 13th, surveillance video caught Amy and Timothy checking out of the Kalahari Resort, where Timothy is seen holding his mother's hand, and then Amy is seen checking her son's backpack. And that is unfortunately the last images seen of Amy and Timothy together.
So I guess what's immediately coming to mind was there maybe, you said that they were having marital problems, but it didn't sound like that they were separated. Do we have any information on that? Was there like a custody dispute or anything at this point?
Nope. They were still together. Their marriage was rocky though. And that is definitely something that I will get into.
There's a difference, right?
Right, absolutely. No, they were married. They were living together. Timothy was their only son, their only child, period. So there wasn't anything really at the moment, I don't think, for James to figure, hey, she ran off with my son at that point.
But I think if I was that dad, so if I was James and that he's been taken out of school in the morning, haven't received any kind of communication from his wife all day, honestly, and if the marriage was already rocky, that's where my mind would be going, is that she just ran off with my son.
Well, exactly. And so he did, like I said, he did end up filing a missing persons report when she would not answer his numerous phone calls. So later that day, Amy called James's brother and other family members as well to let them know that her and Timothy were safe.
But not
James's
the dad.
brother recalls, no, not the dad at all. And James's brother recalls hearing Timothy in the background during the phone call with Amy and says that Timothy sounded like he was playing. So the phone call seemed really normal. But James was still not one of the family members that was notified. That right there to me speaks volumes about where her mindset was. It almost makes it sound like, okay, I don't want the other family members to worry, but I'm doing this almost as a way to kind of get back at James.
I bet that kind of brought question to these other family members' mind as well, as why are you calling me and not the boy's father? Don't you think that the father would have called, his family at this point too, letting them know, hey, they're both missing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I believe James gets notified by other family members, especially his brother, but not by the mother of his child. So according to CBS News, James's brother recalls Amy saying, quote, "Timothy is fine. Timothy belongs to me. Timothy and I will be fine. Timothy is safe." So right there, Timothy belongs to me. That is the big red flag right there.
Red flag, and almost seems like it's calculated. She knew that somebody would be wondering where he was at, and she then was trying to take these steps to just let somebody know that he's okay. But to call the family member and not the dad, that right there is calculated, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is totally calculated. So she also says when she calls her mother too, and tells her mother, quote, "We're fine. We'll be home in a day or two. I just need some time to figure things out and try to think about how to approach this." So at one point, Timothy even got on the phone with one of his family members and everything seemed normal. Normal aside from, in my opinion, on the outside, normal aside from some of what she's saying. He's mine. I don't know. I keep going back to Timothy is mine. She had an agenda is where I'm at with that. But Amy then drove approximately 170 miles towards the town of Sterling along the Rock River, about 80 miles west of Aurora, and then turned her cell phone off for the very last time. Around 7:25 p.m., Amy was caught on surveillance camera at a Family Dollar store in Winnebago, Illinois, where she purchased stationery. Then she was seen at a nearby Sullivan Foods around 8 p.m. Timothy was not with her. She then checked into the Rockford Inn in Rockford, Illinois between 11:15 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. Then, on May 14th, staff at the Rockford Inn found Amy dead in a hotel room after having slit her wrists and neck, and she had also taken an overdose of antihistamines. She was 43 years old at the time of her death, and Timothy was nowhere in the room, and there had been no evidence to support that he had ever been in that hotel room. Police, however, did find a note stating that Timothy was safe and that she had left him in the care of an unnamed person, but that no one would ever find him. Amy's SUV was found in the hotel's parking lot, so it was towed back to Aurora so police could begin investigating it for any kind of signs of what could have happened to Timothy. So, see, this is perfect. You know, she had this all planned out. And what's kind of creepy about the whole thing is that she takes her son on all these little excursions, knowing, I'm guessing, that the whole time she was going to end up committing suicide. But the big question at this point is, where is Timothy? Where's her son? They found her body in a hotel room. There is not one indication that he is or was ever in that hotel room. On May 19th, 2011, more than 70 people began searching the Sterling Rock Falls area for Timothy, but the search turned up nothing. Investigators stated that Amy had made numerous phone calls from the area before her body was discovered. However, none of her family knew of any ties that she could possibly have to that area. Police later discovered blood in the back of Amy's SUV that proved to be Timothy's. However, the family confirmed that Timothy had frequent nosebleeds, and it was quite possible it could have been a result of that. On November 18th, 2011, police released surveillance video of Timothy and Amy at Key Lime Cove Resort in Gurnee and at the Kalahari Resort in the Wisconsin Dells. In the years before Timothy's disappearance, it was a well-known fact that Amy had suffered deep depression and had left James before, but never with Timothy. She had tried to take her own life in the past as well, once before she met James, and again not long after they began dating each other. Not long before the suicide, Amy was reportedly texting one of her ex-husbands, and they had made plans to meet up while James was out of town. When James found out about that, he gave Amy an ultimatum. He basically told her she needed to decide if she wanted to be with him or her ex-husband. And if she chose to be with her ex-husband, James would fight for full custody of Timothy. And the morning that Amy picked her son up from school, James and Amy had had a huge fight. So if that doesn't tell you something.
That tells me a lot of something. So that's why I'm wondering, have they interviewed this ex-husband since her death?
You know, I'm sure they did. Like so many other cases, officers tend to hold a lot of things very close to the vest, and I did not find anything on whether or not they had spoke to the ex-husband or what he may be saying. And I don't even think this is a situation where he might even really know much. I mean, I think this was all just a move to keep Timothy away from his dad. And she's already proven to be suicidal.
Why?
It goes right back to what she had said on the phone with her family members. Timothy is mine.
You're killing yourself. Like, if that's where your mindset is, you would think that she would care about her son enough to realize, okay, he's not going to have his mother, so he's going to need his father.
Well, you would think so, but I think, in so many of these cases, they're more wrapped up with hurting the spouse than they are what's best for the child.
Well, and that's what's sad because, I mean, I hate that she, felt like she had to take her own life, but in that moment, she's thinking of her hurt, that she's hurt, that she's depressed, and not thinking how this is going to affect her son to lose his mother, but then to also be losing his father as well. That's where I'm wondering, was there some other thing that we're missing? That did the James treat Timothy badly that she felt she had to keep him from the son?
No, and I didn't find anything insinuating that he was treating her badly. I guess where I'm looking at it, she wasn't in the right state of mind anyway.
True.
And I really feel like, just my own personal opinion, that she was trying to do this for nothing more than as a way of saying, okay, because James had threatened to get full custody of Timothy if she was going to go back to her ex. And I think it was more of a matter of, if I can't have him, no one can, because you're not going to get Timothy. And I think if she was really thinking about Timothy's best interest, she wouldn't have committed suicide anyway, because that alone is going to affect that child for the rest of his life. So the theory is that obviously either Timothy is deceased, which we don't have anything to back that up. We don't have any solid evidence to back that up. Or that she has given him to another family. And that seems to be the direction that investigators are going. And I'll tell you why here in a second. So after Timothy's disappearance, police found that under Amy's vehicle's rear bumper, there were pieces of long weeds stuck in the undercarriage. Okay, that could lead to investigators thinking it was a possibility that maybe she had killed him and dumped his body somewhere. But investigators believe Amy could have pulled off the main road for some reason, whether it be to hand Timothy off to someone else or dispose of his body. Police also recovered Amy's phone found on the side of a highway. However, there wasn't anything useful on it that would help them locate Timothy, and after a thorough search of the area, they had nothing. Amy's cell phone, however, did indicate that one of the last calls she made pinged off a cell phone tower near Sterling, Illinois. Police looked through her phone records and saw that Amy made 2 trips to that same area in the months prior. Family has stated repeatedly that they don't believe there was anything tying her to that area that they could possibly think of. Timothy's family said that Amy loved Timothy more than anything and would never hurt him. They believe he's still alive and that Amy has possibly given him to another family as a way to keep James away from his son after having threatened to take full custody of him. So the family is even believing that she just wanted to keep Timothy away from James. And like I said, I didn't find anything saying that James was a bad person or James was abusive or anything of the sort. So I think it all kind of went south after that threat to get full custody of Timothy. I think this was seriously a matter of, you're not going to threaten me for full custody. I'm taking him and you will never find him. She's even stating these things. You will never find him. She stated that in the suicide note.
From the evidence, though, that you had mentioned, I honestly think that, and of course, I don't know, but she may have killed him and then dumped his body someplace. Just from, there's blood. There's weeds where she pulled off the road. She discarded her phone that they found at the side of the highway. And if she knew she was going to, she had this plan to kill herself anyways. And so she didn't, for whatever reason, want James to have his son. That to me is that's how they'll never find him, is because she killed him.
Well, and that is definitely a possibility. Now, there are things that officers did find on the other side of that coin where they feel like, okay, if she, would she have done this or that if she had killed him? And one of those things, okay, they were searching financial records. Officers discovered that Amy bought Timothy new clothes and new toys before the trip, and none of that has ever turned up. Timothy's Spider-Man backpack is also among the items that are still missing. So during the investigation, police confirmed that the only blood found on the knife that Amy used to kill herself had only her own blood on it. Investigators do believe, though, that Amy has been planning Timothy's disappearance for months, and evidence found to support that claim indicates that Amy had taken 2 recent trips to the area that Timothy would later disappear from. So that part, it kind of goes back and forth for me anyway, because yes, the weeds under the undercarriage of the SUV would make me believe that maybe she literally rode off into the weeds to dispose of a body. But then I go the other way, because why would you buy him new clothes and new toys and things like that if you were going to just kill him? And if you did kill him, where are the clothes? Where are the toys? Where's all that stuff? Unless she buried all that stuff somewhere.
Yeah, and I can totally see that side of it as well. I guess when you were first saying this, where she bought new clothes for him, a new toy, that to me is, before we got to the rest of the story, I was like, wow, they're running. She's not taking any of his things with him. New clothes at the store, a toy just to kind of keep him entertained as they're traveling, however far.
I agree with investigators. This totally screams the fact that it was all planned out. This was not a spur of the moment thing where she's like, okay, I'm going to go get Timothy from school and we're going to go to all these places. It was like she wanted to spend all this time and do all these fun things with her son because she knew that was going to be the last time she did these things with him. But I'm torn about whether or not she murdered him, or if she really did hand him off to another family, or sell him, or whatever could have happened. But it doesn't surprise me that if she did murder him, the only blood on the knife that she used to kill herself was hers and didn't have Timothy's. I feel like if she did murder him, she probably didn't stab him or cut him. I don't know. And I might be totally wrong if she did kill him. I mean, but I don't know. What are your thoughts? I don't know how that works, because I can't imagine murdering anyone, much less my child. So the family says that she would never hurt him. She loved him so much. Well, in maybe her own sick mind, she thought, okay, you're better off dead than to be with your dad, or I don't know. It's a very, very, very tricky case, I feel like. So I just kind of go back and forth with that.
Exactly. That she's, for whatever reason, she does not want James, even in her death, to have custody of this child.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'm not surprised that the family would say, oh, she loved him, she'd never hurt him, because all families say that. They probably didn't see coming, unfortunately, either, that that she would go to this length to even commit suicide. And it's a sad situation. But I mean, I don't know. Yeah, as a mother, that I wouldn't imagine that you would be willing to kill your child just so that the husband can't have his hands on him, unless there was some kind of like abuse situation that she felt she was protecting him from. That's where it's weird to me, because especially, as a suicide situation, they would be more concerned with their hurt, and that they want to end it, because they don't want to hurt their family members. They don't want them to have to deal with that anymore. So that's where that's strange too. I mean, that's causing, whether he's dead or alive, Timothy, this is causing him lots of pain. One, that he's lost a mother, and two, that he hasn't been able to reunite with his father.
Well, and I totally agree with that. And I feel like maybe if she was trying, just say, which I don't think this was the case, but just say that James was abusive and she thought she was protecting Timothy by murdering Timothy so that he never had to endure any abuse. I would think that probably Amy would not commit suicide herself, but feel like she needs to maybe run off, like it appeared to be in the very beginning of this, run off, take Timothy and run. And that would make a whole lot more sense. But obviously, that's not how this went. And I didn't find anything. Nothing
Well, and that's what's
insinuating that James
tricky.
was abusive.
And that's what's tricky, is that usually for somebody to go to this extent, something has triggered that. Whether it was abusive, whether there was this big fight. You had said earlier there was this big fight, but we don't know exactly the details of that. But to feel like that she has to take her son, that something has happened, if she's been planning that for months, then that wasn't hingent on just that fight that happened the morning they left. This is something she was already planning.
Oh, yeah. And investigators believe that she had been planning and plotting this out for months. And she was suicidal before her and James even got together. She had already made 2 different attempts on her life. So she was already mentally unstable at some level. And I think that after being told that she could possibly lose Timothy, I think that just sent her over the edge. And whether or not she went to such lengths to murder Timothy or to hand him off to another family. Now, this was in 2011, so I find it really hard to believe that Timothy is living his best life right now, all these years with another family, and investigators have no idea.
Well, and he was 6 years old at the time. So now, what would he be, like probably about 18, 19 years old?
Yeah. So wouldn't you think, especially at that age, by then, you think, well, if you're handed off at 6 years old, you're old enough to know this is not your family. This is not, where's dad? What happened to mom? Because if he's alive, he didn't know at that age that his mother killed herself. So you would think at some point in the years, he would be wondering where his biological parents are.
Right. Well, something we haven't brought up that kind of my mind goes there. Okay, so she took him, if we back up a bit, she took him from school that morning and they go and they do all this fun stuff. We've been looking at it as that, because this will be the last time that she will spend with him. Could it also be they were doing all this fun stuff because she knew what she was about to do to him?
That's a really, really good possibility. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it could have been, way more than just she knew this was the last time the last moment she was going to be with her son because she was planning to commit suicide. But yes, definitely also because she was planning on killing her son as well. I think that's a good possibility. And that's kind of where my mind is leaning towards anyway right now, unfortunately. So many times we see also that their intentions are to get back at the spouse, whether it be a father killing his child to get back at the mother or vice versa. And it's unfortunate. It's incredibly unfortunate. But one thing's clear, her mind was not stable and hadn't been for a long time, it sounds like. But in May of 2014, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released an age-progressed photo of what Timothy would look like at age 9. And so he would have been age 9 in 2014. And I can post that age-progressed photo on our social media sites. So on April 3rd, 2019, a woman in Newport, Kentucky found a boy wandering the streets who claimed he had been kidnapped and held captive for 7 years and then managed to escape. The woman called the police and the boy was taken to a nearby hospital. Aurora police sent 2 detectives to interview the boy, and DNA tests were conducted to see if there was a chance that the boy could be Timothy. But when results came back, it was confirmed that the boy was in fact not Timothy.
Wow, that seemed very ironic.
Yeah, it is really ironic. And talking about getting your hopes up too.
Right.
In the years since Timothy Pitzen's disappearance, family of Timothy's have all been completely cooperative with police investigating the case, and none of them have been named as suspects in his disappearance. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Timothy Pitzen, please call the Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678, or the Aurora Police Department at area code 630-256-5516. This case is so heartbreaking and just another example of a child being used as a pawn to hurt another parent. And really, you see this all the time in troubled marriages or divorces. And I absolutely hate the fact that parents use these kids in an effort to get back at the spouse, because I don't know if they just don't realize how much damage they do to the child in the long run by doing that, or maybe if they just don't even care because they've got their sights set on one thing, and that's to hurt the other party.
No, I totally agree that it's sad that it comes to this. I mean, we already know that Amy was not in her right mind through the depression, the mental illness. But in the same sense, we see this a lot, not to this extent, but in divorce cases, custody cases, that they try to keep the child from the other parent. And to me, that's just selfish. You have to realize kids love both parents. And past like an abusive situation for the child, I mean, that's just hurting the child. He or she needs both of their parents.
Absolutely. And a child's love is unconditional. And it's sad to me nonetheless. But thank you for listening to Gone in a Blink. If you like our show, please consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on our social media sites. You can find us on Facebook at Gone in a Blink or on Instagram at Gone in a Blink Pod. And we are always up for ideas for new episodes. So if you have one you'd like us to cover, you can email us at goneinablinkpod@gmail.com. And always remember, be safe, be smart, and try not to blink.